Hello everybody and welcome to this video. It's the continuation in the series on A-Level English Literature. Everything you see in this video comes from Mr. Bruff's Guide to A-Level English Literature, which is available for just £4.99 at mrbruff.com or on amazon.co.uk. It was written by Kerry Lewis, aka Mrs. Spag on Twitter, who also wrote the Guide to Grammar. Do pick up a copy. We're still looking at AO1, and really this video is just a taster of something that's covered in much more detail in the book. I've sort of played around for quite a while with trying to get this video right, and in the end I decided to just do the beginning of it and then point you towards the ebook. I'm going to talk to you today about the rather complex topic of referencing, footnotes and a bibliography. Now you might be thinking, do I need to do that? And there's probably a simple way of thinking about that as well, which is that if you're in year 12 you can probably give this section a miss, but if you are in year 13 or you're about to do any work for your degree, then this video is important. In the second year of your A-level, you're going to have a non-exam assessment, which your teacher might well refer to as coursework. And that's work where your teacher is going to read a draft and then give you advice and mark your finished response. And it's then going to be sent off and moderated by the exam board. Now in that assessment you're expected to reference your wider reading using footnotes and to write a bibliography. This whole topic is incredibly detailed, and the ebook contains everything you need to know about how to reference your wider reading. These days, with the internet, with TV, with catch-up, with tweets, with Facebook, with all of these different things you can reference, this is really tricky. So I'm going to go through some of it now, but really you do need to get the ebook to have the written out definitive guide to referencing. Now, a little word on plagiarism, really important. Plagiarism is where you steal another person's ideas and pass them off as your own. It's a very serious offence. If you attempt to steal someone's ideas in a court, you risk being awarded no marks, and you might be barred from sitting one or more exams for a particular period of time and not be able to gain your A-levels. But of course you are expected to read widely, and when you're reading you're going to encounter a range of different interpretations of the text that you're studying, as well as vital contextual information. So to avoid accusations of plagiarism, you should acknowledge any wider reading that you quote, paraphrase or describe. That's really important. It's not just stuff that you're quoting. If you're taking ideas, describing someone else's ideas or paraphrasing their ideas, you have to reference them. There are lots of different systems for referencing your reading. We're going to focus on MHRA, the Modern Humanities Research Association referencing system. That was a deep breath, which is in basically common use at British universities. So it's going to help you for when you go to uni. So you only reference your wider reading, which is called secondary sources. You don't reference the core texts you're studying in class, which are your primary sources. But when you quote or refer to a secondary source, you need to acknowledge where it came from, but you don't want all the detail this involves to interrupt the thread of your discussion. After all, your primary aim is to show how your wider reading informs your views, not have it bog you down. And this is why we have footnotes. You can refer to your wider reading in your essay, and then acknowledge your source of information in the footnote. So if you're not familiar with footnotes, they look like this. The bit above the line is an example of what it would look like in the essay, and then at the bottom of the page you have the footnote. And you can see all quotations must be in single inverted commas, single quotation marks. So according to Major and Minor, the protagonist character was profoundly affected by his discordant childhood, footnote number 1, and then at the bottom of the page or the end of the chapter you would go and see what that footnote was. So it doesn't interrupt the flow of your essay, but if you want to read that further or think, oh, where's that a reference from? Now, if you want to create a footnote in Word, you have to click the References tab and press the Insert Footnote button, and your superscript number will appear after your citation and again at the bottom of the page, ready for your footnote. So your first footnote is number 1, and the superscript number rises as you add more footnotes. It's quite an easy process, and it's worth practicing. Why don't you simply type the number? Well, the benefit of using a superscript number is that when you make changes to your draft, your footnotes automatically move with your changes. And that's very useful if you have lots of footnotes and decide to take one out. So, what do you do next? Well, the way you reference your wider reading in your footnotes varies according to what your secondary sources are. And I'm just going to give you one example, which is when you're referencing from a book. You have to write the author's first name or initial, and then his or her surname. After the surname, insert a comma. The title of the book needs to be in italics. The main words in the title should be capitalized. And you introduce any subtitle with a colon. After the title, you write the edition number, if this information is available, and then inside one set of brackets, the place of publication, a colon, the publisher's name, a comma, the year it was published, close brackets, insert a comma. And all this information is on the inside cover of your book if you're wondering where to find it. And if there's a list of publication dates, then use the most recent. And then finally, you refer to the page or page numbers. A single number is written as P6. A range of page numbers is PP 6 to 12, for example, ends with a full stop. And it looks like this. Now, I have to tell you, when I was doing my degree, it took me hours and hours, possibly days, to write out the references for my work when I did my dissertation. It's a ridiculous process, very, very frustrating. You've got to get all the dots and the commas and the brackets and the dates and everything right. And this is an example from a book, but in the Mr. Bruff's Guide to A-Level English Literature, you will have much more information. So let me tell you the other things that are covered. What if it's a chapter from an edited book? What if it's an ebook? What if it's an online ebook? What if it's a website article? What if it's something I watched on YouTube? What if it's a journal article? What if it's an online journal, a newspaper or magazine article, a section of a newspaper or magazine, an online newspaper or magazine article, a film, a TV episode, a TV program? What if it's a TV series or program on the internet? What if I watched a film in the cinema? What if I watched a TV episode, program or film on DVD? What if it's a blog post or a Twitter post or a Facebook post? How do I cite the same reference if it appears at least twice in a row? What if I cite the same source but it's later in the essay? What if I reference an author who's written different books? What if I reference the Bible? Always a popular one at A-level. So all of those are covered in exhaustive detail in the revision guide. But let me just finish this video by saying you've got to do it, and you've got to do it right, because else you can be accused of plagiarism. So a pretty heavy going video, and it's only a brief introduction to the exhaustive detail which you can find in the revision guide.